Yes, This song is called Be the Change, inspired by the words of Mahatma Gandhi, who lived for peace and not violence, and told us to be the change we wish to see in the world.
Welcome to the 100th Monkey Radio. I am coming to you this week from semi-sunny Burbank, California. I'm happen to be down in Southern California for the recording this week. I wish it was a vacation, but I'm here for work. And while here, I just have the honor and pleasure of doing a show. Yeah. So I'm actually kind of close to our guest and may talk to him after the show's over and see if we can't hook up later on this week. So Ramon, how's the weather over there in Japan? I'm enjoying about 70 degrees and nice and sunny finally.
It's not sunny here. I'm sorry, it's not that warm here. I'm getting it. For those of you who live overseas, outside the U.S., it's around 12, 13 degrees. That's what, John?
12, 13 degrees? That would be, what, about 50?
Yeah.
Celsius.
Yeah. Not too bad. But I saw something on Facebook that I was completely amazed. And for those of you who think that one person can't change a lot, this man from India, if you go to our Facebook page, you can see where I posted that. But this man from India, when he was, I think, 16 or 17, in the area he lived, there was nothing there, and it was just these sandbars. And I guess there was some storm that washed up all these reptiles, and all these reptiles died because they had nowhere to get cover.
So, like, what kind of reptiles?
Snakes, lizards, and stuff like that. And they died because of, the heat. So he saw them, and something happened to him where he started crying. So from that day forward, he went to the forest, people and said, we need to plant more stuff here. And they told him, oh, you can't do that there because nothing will grow there, maybe bamboo. So he took it upon himself to buy seeds and started planting. And 30 years later, he has like 1,600 acres planted, which is now a full jungle recognized by him. So that goes to show you. So, this jungle is pretty much his. And
so how long ago did he start this?
30 years ago.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. He started planting all different kinds of seeds. He even transplanted an ant colony into the jungle. So, and he brought in a lot of animals and stuff into it. So it's just, he became a real steward.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. There's those shining lights out there, and when we see them, they got to be recognized in some form or fashion. Just a pat on the back. Good job.
Yeah, I'm actually I contacted the person who posted that, and he said he'll try to contact the person, or at least the forest. The forest rangers in that region. See if they can get in contact with him. But yeah, I was just completely moved by that. So for those of you who think you're one person, you can't do anything, that's a lie.
So this is the 100th Monkey Radio with Tom and Ramon, and you guys can catch us on Facebook, Twitter. Let's see, I've got a YouTube page out there. We do our Tuesday live show on Truth Frequency Radio Network, and John D. Riley, who is actually our guest tonight, and we'll bring him in here shortly. He was on the show there a couple weeks ago, so you might want to pop over there and check out the show we did with him also. That's all in their archives, and their archives are all free if you don't mind listening to their commercials. But it's all good. It's all good. So, man, and the energies, Ramon, have this week. Uh, I've seen, I've experienced quite the roller coaster, and I mentioned this last week too. But this week there was a low on, or in the last week that we're recording this on Monday, March 4th, just so you guys don't go, what? Nothing happened this week. So, but uh, last Thursday, I think it was, there was such a drop in the energy. It was like, and I don't know if this was just localized because I haven't got any reports from anybody else on this, but there was a drop in the energy. It was almost like it felt more like a negativity bomb. And it just like everybody I was around and everybody, and even I felt it, just the negativity coming out of me and the people around me was horrendous. And it only lasted that one day. And last Friday, it was just like it was back to normal. So, when I experience stuff like that, I've really been paying a lot of attention to how I sense the energies in the world around me. And I tend to believe that I'm becoming more sensitive to them and at least being able to recognize them better than I had been in the past. But there's some crazy shit going on in this world, and it's the roller coaster up and down. I don't know. We'll definitely have to get John's input on that too. So might as well get him in here and get him chatting. We've got John Riley with us. He's a researcher in alternative energy and science. He's got a really diverse background from top secret projects with Lockheed, Skunkworks, and he's just doing all sorts of stuff. He's working with this stuff through his website, www.zeropointresearch.com, where he's got these energy generators that are. Well, I'm going to have him describe those things to you. But this is the kind of stuff that we're looking for in our future. Tapping into those other realms and those other energies that haven't been historically have not been capitalized upon, and we're now beginning to really understand them. So welcome to the 100th Monkey, John. Glad to have you back.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be back, Tom and Ramon. Thank you very much.
Oh, Ramon, you had to do it. For Ramon,
John, definitely.
We're gonna have to record a intro for this show, Ramon, where you do your monkey thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That cracks me up every time I hear it. But so, John, you heard me talk about the energies. I mean, there's something really crazy going on in the world here. I don't know. Things are moving. Energies are moving tremendously fast and in some intense proportions.
Absolutely. Without a doubt. Well, we were, talking briefly, like when you're talking about the emotional roller coaster, one of the things that when we, and what's great is in these times is that we have satellites and we have measuring equipment all over the world and out in space that allows us to correlate when we feel events that are happening on the planet or even on us now. And we're connecting the dots in big ways. Like when we're feeling these emotional shifts, we can go to certain websites and we can see how the magnetic field of the planet is, what level it's in, if the electrons or the protons are going through shifts, and then we can start to gauge and say, wow, every time I feel this way, I go here, and the electrons are in this raising pattern on the scale, or the protons are shooting up, or the magnetic field is like really dense on the planet. So this is showing us the outside of effects, that can actually affect life on the planet from events that are happening in our solar system and in the universe.
Right.
And we already have that connection to the full moon, the 3 days before to the 3 days after, the terms throughout history, where we had the term lunatic or lunacy or moonstruck. It's all about that increased mental outburst during the lunar eclipse. I mean, I'm sorry, the lunar full moons.
Right.
So this is very interesting. And so they've reeled those terms back, in the last few decades. But again, those terms were given, and because they noticed that pattern, 3 days before and to 3 days after.
Right, right. I'm so damn busy right now that with holding down a full-time job and then doing all the stuff that we do with the two radio shows that, boy, I can't hardly fit any kind of research in sideways. I mean, when I do experience these things, there's a couple of things that I do check to see is mainly I've just been mainly watching the solar stuff. And I have definitely noticed the mood swings just with solar flares and different things happening on the sun itself. It definitely, without a doubt in my mind, there's no doubt at all in my mind that the solar emissions definitely have an effect on our emotional body.
Absolutely. There's so many of us that are connecting those dots now. When we talk about our emotional body, the compression in the atmosphere, where certain coronal holes, have the ability to affect, planetary activity, from inner Earth, to ULF frequencies that can end up causing earthquakes or volcanic eruptions. Especially when the protons go through this shift, we have to kind of understand the cause and effect. Since we have over 70 trillion cells in the human body, are we affected by the sun? Well, without a doubt, and I've said this more than once, without the sun, life as we know it could not exist on this planet. It is the true life force. So that solar consciousness is something that we're getting back to understanding. If you've ever taken up the hobby or the high spiritual path to become a sun gazer, I've been sun gazing for about 7 years now. And when you get to this certain ability, you can see within the sun, and this is something very hard to explain until you go through this shift within the optical in your eyes and your brain. It changes the way that your pupils respond, and so all of a sudden you when you're looking at the perfect time, you truly go into what we call the gaze. And
Right.
This gaze is known in many different ways, in different civilizations on this planet. So this gets very interesting when it happens to you, and you could feel the shift in just your overall consciousness when this does happen.
Right. I can get about 5 minutes, and I'm tapped out after about 5 minutes now. But I mean, it's taken me, oh geez, a year and a half to get there.
Yeah. Well, it takes an incredible amount of training. I usually suggest people to combine meditation with it, because that allows the brain, the frequency of the brain to slow down. And this is where it gets interesting. When we understand that a fast brain rate, most people that are in a high state of brain rate is they're more susceptible to the materialistic world, the three-dimensional aspects. When we have the ability to slow down the frequency and get it closer to the earth resonance, back to, to that Schumann frequency around 6.8 hertz or lower, then those are the higher conscious beings. Those are the enlightened ones that are able to, almost create that stillness within the mind and consciousness. So this is where everything changes. I actually have physical shifts that have happened to me where I line myself up with whoever's in the room, and I have one person just go and look at all of our pupils, and depending on where the light is, and they look at mine and they go, your pupils are really tiny compared to everyone else's, and I go, right, and you put me in a dark room and they'll stay the same. And people say, well, what's going on? I go, well, do you understand that? Everyone else's, eyes will dilate, to the amount of light in the room, but mine don't. So this is something you can't trick. You can't do it. You can't induce that. Well, you can if you use like belladonna or something like that, but you usually dilate out, to contract them. Of course, there are certain drugs in the body that could do that as well. But when you do it from a conscious standpoint, where it's fixed, then you could see that the brain frequency and the way that we perceive our vision has changed drastically.
That's absolutely amazing. You know, I've never heard anybody say that about the eyes. And this
Yeah.
is the reason I'm saying it's amazing is because I actually noticed something with myself is that my pupils are really small.
Mm.
And you know, I don't seem to, you know, when I look at other people's eyes, they got these big ass black spots in the center of their eyes, and mine are these little tiny dots. I'm like, what the hell?
Well, that's
I'm not doing any
that's a good
drugs.
sign.
I'm not
Yeah.
doing any drugs. What the hell's going on? You know?
Well, that's usually a very good sign. You know that you are in that shift. You know you are shifting the frequency to of the brain to capture more. And this is where it gets interesting. You know, when we study photography and from just understanding the f stops of a lens to the shutter speed. You know, when we close the f stop down, what do we have to do to capture? And we have to slow the speed of the film. We have to keep, the shutter open longer to capture more data. Now, we do that when we want to kind of force the depth of field, and we want to see more. When we want to see more on the emulsion of the film, and this is where it gets interesting. So to do this, when the brain does that, then we're capturing more. And we're almost in this stillness. You know, we don't have the rapid eye movement, the constant tracking that normally happens. We're walking in more of a gaze, which is like what we call a walking meditation. There are other terms for it, but then that's usually the first thing that if it's brought to your realization that you're not, moving, your eyes aren't targeting as much as they used to. You know, you're more in an open gaze when the brain slows down and the irises close. And then in that memory retention, you're capturing more data than you ever have. So it gets really interesting when we start to utilize that. A lot of people will think something's wrong with their vision, and usually around that time, Tom, around that year and a half, is people start to question the sun gazing. Is it beneficial to them? They start to worry because their vision is shifting. And if you go to a regular optometrist to get your eyes checked, they're going to tell you that you're possibly damaging your eyes. And so and this is where it gets tricky. Is like, do you continue on the path of your own guidance, or do you get caught in the old mechanisms that don't really understand? So we always have to use our own discernment and trust our own guidance.
Yeah, I was gonna mention how has your vision improved?
Yeah, well, that's to talk about the improvements, and this is something that I really don't discuss too often. And one of the things that I went through about 4 years ago, I went into the only way I can call this is I went into, for about 6 weeks, I went into fixed focus. And what happened is my eyes focused out to infinity, and they wouldn't come back. And I was like almost in this locked vision, and I didn't really understand at that time what was going on. And I could put my hand in front of me, and my eyes would, and I'd see everything clearly behind my hand. And I'm like, what is going on? What is happening to my vision? And I didn't question to go get my eyes checked. I just stayed the course. And then what happened is that's when I went through this brain shift, this shift within the way that I was perceiving the energies around me. And that's when I started to see the matrix. In other beings, in other life that came before me. I started realizing that you have to gaze out. You have to, release the vision of holding on to what you think is in front of you and go into the gaze. And what happens then is that you start to see the matrix. You can actually start seeing the energy fields, just like our technologies, just like, the ancients, the ancient civilizations talked about the energies around the body. All this starts to become very visible. And I didn't talk about it, for a long time. I just started, I became to understand it and started to hone it and realize what utilization. Now, some people, once they gain this or they're born with it, they start to use it, for their benefit in others. And that's, we see this in the psychic world. We see this in intuitives. People will now take that role and use that as this is their purpose on the planet. Then some can be very aggressive with it. Some can be very in alignment with it, and be graceful with it. So this is, again, these are the choices when these abilities start to come in. How do you use them?
Right.
Yeah, there was one terminology I heard, and I never heard this before. I'm trying to remember his name, Dr. Michael Gibson. Is that his name, Tom?
Mitchell Gibson.
Mitchell. Oh, wow. Mitchell Gibson. He was saying that when you do that, you go into what he called gamma state. So I've only heard like alpha, beta, theta, but I've never heard of the gamma state. Have you heard anything like that?
Well, the perception of when we understand, well, we start to look at the spectrum, the visible spectrum of light. Or the measurement of frequencies around us. One of the things that we're opening to is that we're realizing that we can attune ourselves to almost, to perceive other spectrums that are right on that edge of what is considered invisible. And so this is where it gets very interesting. So the gamma, we can measure, gamma rays very, very precisely and we can actually take the technology that can isolate that spectrum and visualize it. So when we realize that, if we can induce technology to do that, can we induce our own physical beings to do so? I say yes. The question is, what purpose will it serve? Is it going to be beneficial? So again, these are just the things that we have to ask ourselves. When we reveal this, this ability. But yeah, I wouldn't even question it that he's achieving this level of vision or ability.
Right.
Yeah, he went into he says there's a particular way that you can even do this at 12 noon, and I'm not suggesting anyone to try this, but that you can do it even during high sun. That according to him, that's what he does. I guess he's been doing it that long that he knows how to look at it.
Yes. Yeah, I understand that process too. About 2 years ago, when I was in Egypt, actually at the Sinai, all of a sudden, being in that energy, being on Mount Sinai, I was able to fully open and gaze directly into the sun while it was high in the sky. And I think a lot of that contributed to these special glasses that this one scientist made. And I really wish he didn't disappear, because he made these incredible goggles that allow you to see the infrared band. And I would take those to Egypt, and I would lay on the deck of our sailing ship, and for an hour and a half to 2 hours, and I would sun gaze, and I could look directly into the sun with these goggles. And you would go into a state, of transcendence unlike anything. And if I could take it a little bit further, stating at this one time, I went into such a deep state that I transcended into this room, and I was in this room, and I saw this beautiful ornate chair. And I could see the detail of the knotted wood, where the armrests are, to the high back, and then behind that were two paintings, and it had this beautiful trim, along the top and bottom of the walls. And all of a sudden, a person appeared in the chair and looked at me, and it was Nikola Tesla at 36 years old.
Wow.
He looked me right in the eyes, and I looked at him, and then for about 5 seconds, I was able to stay in that room. And then all of a sudden, he was gone from the chair, and I was gone out of the room. And I came back, and I came out of the gaze, and I just went, "What just happened?" and I had to reflect. I sat there for about 20 minutes, just reflecting on what just happened in my mind. What just happened in my presence. I said, "Where did I go?" And it's as clear as day as the event happened 2 years ago. When I tell it, it's so precise. I can see it as clearly. And the detail was something that was unlike I've only had that happen to me 3 times in my life, where you go into the super consciousness state, where the detail, it's like ultra high definition. It's about 10 times sharper than anything you can
Right.
see with your visual eyes now.
Right.
And that lets us know that we have shifted. We've moved into a higher state of consciousness when we retain that much information.
Right.
So yeah, it's exciting.
So I'm trying to understand how the sun gazing. So I'm assuming that if someone, let's just say someone who's never done it before, is going to sit there and sun gaze for an hour, which
No.
don't suggest that.
No,
I
no,
don't
no.
suggest that. You do 10
No,
seconds.
again, no. One of the most things that it's very important that I specify that I was using special goggles that it's like the same type. It's very similar to like the goggles that you can use to look at eclipses, but they were on the infrared bandwidth. And they allowed me to sustain and to gaze at the sun for long periods of time. Why did I do this? Is because what happens when the infrared, and we know this with healing modalities now using far infrared, is that that's a penetratable energy, on what we almost perceive as an invisible field. But it actually, when you gaze, with these goggles, you get heat all the way back, past the pupils of the eyes, and you actually feel the heat in the brain. So that's how deeply penetrating the energies the infrared can get in. So that is, again, and there are modalities on the planet that can do that. Now, to state, if someone was interested in sun gazing, you have to start small. Just like I know Tom was about ready to interject that, and
Right.
you would start with at the sunrise. You would gaze for 1 to 3 minutes, like your first time. And then and then you would maintain that for several times, and then you could step up. Then you go from 3 to 5 minutes, then you go from 5 to 7 minutes, 7 to 9 minutes, and then I usually don't suggest anyone going past 10 minutes in a sun gazing. You usually get enough during that, and it has to be right at that horizon. Those are the magic moments.
Right.
Sunrise and sunset. Those are your two, because those are the atmospheric phenomenons. That's when the light, the bandwidth of perception is drastically changed during that time of the gaze, and so those are the two optimum times.
Yeah. No, what I was gonna say is that what it reminds me of is it's basically because you're doing this consistently, then either the optical or the nerve system is able to absorb more energy. So it's like taking a very thin gauge wire and running a heavy voltage to it that you'll just burn out the wire, where you get a very thick gauge wire and you can run heavy voltage to it. So I'm comparing it to that. Is it the same thing?
Well, actually, the comparison, to use that analogy, would be like taking crude energy at low voltage and running it through a thin wire. And if the energy is noisy, it can break through the insulator and short out. Now, if you shift that frequency and we start using pure energy, then that wire that was originally specified to only do one thing can now go beyond that. So you don't have to necessarily rewire yourself, because one of the things that we're doing is when we're gazing is that when you start mastering the gazing, you're slowing the brain down, and you're also slowing the thoughts of the mind. So you're not someone's stressing out of the present moment. When they're gazing, they're going to be straining their eyes. They're going to be using facial muscles. They're going to be squinting, and those aren't beneficial at all, because you're kind of blocking the benefits. And the true gazer, they're completely wide open. They're expressionless. Their eyes are wide open. They don't even blink. And so that's what you have to be able to see, the comparison differences, and then ask that person, how did you get to that point to achieve that? And they'll
Right.
tell you in time. It takes time to get there. Just like anything that we're honing. But if they're measured, are they going to have thicker wires, for say, from their the opticals, to the brain? No, not necessarily. but they'll be more in harmony to accept because they consciously shift to receive the purer frequencies instead of the noise.
Right, right. And it is very, very important to start slow and work your way up because, I see things, I almost felt new pathways being built within myself and when I started the practice that, new connections being made within my mind and my being. And it just felt right to go slow. So, I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect.
I'm wondering to compare to certain children, like I forget their names, but there's a young girl in Russia who supposedly can see X-ray, and then there's a young boy in China who can see completely in the dark and can even do math problems in the dark.
Yeah, the cat eyes.
Yeah, I mean he has like these gorgeous eyes.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, is that they were born with these abilities, but are we heading towards that direction for those people who sun gaze?
Well, this is, when we start seeing these children that are coming in, and not just children. I mean, we're seeing, these super beings, or when we talk about superhuman, of course, that's an ability that the norm or the masses are not able to achieve, but there's this one unique one that has these unique abilities. So when we realize that they came in that way, that's just like idiot savants, that they call them, that their minds, their consciousness works on a totally different level. There's a show on Fox right now called Touch. I don't know if you've seen that with Kiefer Sutherland, and it's about his son that he's one of the gifted ones, and he sees mathematics. He doesn't talk. He doesn't have emotions. He's not like a normal kid, but everything is within the Fibonacci around him, and he can see the events based on these numbers that line up. The first 3 shows, or the pilot of that show, was absolutely amazing. I mean, I got the tingles through the whole thing. Just elated that Tim Kring, the producer of that, he's the one that did Heroes, was able to get this to mainstream media and put this on a network.
Yeah.
So what's that called again?
It's called Touch.
Yeah, I saw the pilot, and that's the only thing I've seen. I don't have TV, so I think I don't even remember. I think I got the DVD for the first one. I don't remember how I saw it.
Yeah, well, but it's great, is that we're seeing these, what we call close to the mark. I don't know the best term to use, but, something that is like conceivable. It's not far-fetched science fiction, where it can almost be factual to a point where, yeah, this could happen. We're starting to understand these sequences. We start seeing shows like the movie Chronicle. I don't know if you got to see that. That was a sleeper film, but absolutely amazing on the story that it told. And
Chronicle?
Chronicle. Yeah, it's about these teenagers who they stumble into this hole in the earth. And they just this one kid had a video camera, and he started videotaping his world for many reasons. So he brought the camera with him when they went down, and they found this organic crystal that was living. And when they went up there, they got captivated by it, and you see, it's affecting the camera big time. And then you see the one guy, when he goes up to it, his nose starts to bleed like rapidly. And then all of a sudden there's a cut in the video, and it comes back later, and all of a sudden they're starting to showing, wow, look at what we can do. And they're showing, he's videotaping how they can actually take a baseball and throw it and influence it. They can curve it, and one of the kids had such incredible abilities, he could stop the baseball. And so then all of a sudden, as they grow, they start to strengthen these muscles. They start and they relate it to working out. If we do too much, we'll rupture and we get nosebleeds. But if we work it, then we become stronger and stronger throughout the movie. Then they learn to fly, and then they start doing these superhuman. They become gods, but they're teenagers with these powers, and totally have no understanding of with great power comes great responsibility. So they start running amok, and they start devastating everything they touch. So it's definitely one to put on the watch list. Chronicle. It's just called Chronicle.
Yeah.
Came out 2 years ago, if I recall.
So, John, have you read The Secret Doctrine?
I have
Blavatsky?
not.
Hmm. You know, I read it a few years ago, and I'm rereading it now with a totally different mind than I did the first time I went through it. And uh, you know, they talk about we're into the fifth world right now. We're the dawn of the fifth world, or the fifth evolution of mankind, I guess is a better way to describe it. Through that, all the previous versions of mankind have it's all been a process to slowly bring the divine mind into the physical realm, into the physical body, and it's really hard to describe right at this point, but I'm seeing strong correlations between what was written and what all these old ancient sages that wrote this stuff down, all the writings out of India and Middle East and just all over the world, really, that they talk about the evolution and of mankind and the different worlds and how they're developed. And I am just really seeing us. I mean, every time I start reading that book, I see a very poignant and active part of this cycle happening right here and right now on this planet. We are changing, and we are changing fast.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt, it is. There, the signs are all around us. You know, I know just before we went on air, we were talking end of times. You know, all the signs. And when we look at, you know, so many things that were written like even a couple hundred years ago about these times with the Pope. And, you know, now, so when we start looking at the significances of the events that are happening, I made a post on my Facebook page today, you know, relating to the Pope, to Queen Elizabeth, you know, her situation now being hospitalized, and the swarm of locusts that appeared in Egypt today, just before Passover, you know, and also the comet that is now visible in the sky to the human eye in the southern hemisphere, soon to be visible in the northern hemisphere in about a week. So when we start looking at all these correlations of these events that are happening, and also the C word was posted in the news today, and the C word I'm stating today is the cure. They talked about this one child that was cured of the HIV virus.
Right.
You know, so
I heard
now
that story.
and we never hear that word ever used, you know, in mainstream, you know, when they actually say, you know, a child was cured, you know, so these are significant.
It was born with HIV, and they went through a series of medications, and I'm not sure exactly how long or what kind of medications they used, but yeah, they were able to cure it.
Yeah, actually, yeah. A few months later, they came back in and did additional studies and realized that there was no signs of the HIV virus at all. And at first, they thought it was a mistake, but then they went and they looked at the history of the child and realized that the child was infected, but it was no longer. There was absolutely no signs of it in the blood whatsoever. So they, with confidence, they stated that this child was cured.
Yeah, that's
they were able to state that.
Definitely not a word you hear in mainstream, is it?
Absolutely not. It's all over the news today, and that's, again, we have to look at all these signs. You know, of course, remember that the lightning struck, you know, at the Vatican the day that the Pope announced that he was stepping down. You know, all these significance. Now the comet in the sky. You know, it's just, you know, again, you know, a lot of the mythologists like William Henry, you know, I know he's like working to connect the dots big time right now of just this, and he has been, you know, some of all the information that has been foretold, all these prophecies, especially in India, the kind of the signs of the cycle that we're looking at, from ancient civilizations, from Egypt, to the Mayans, to the Aztecs. All this is starting to be decoded and understood, that this is a great time. We are in this grand cycle right now. And we're all here witnessing it, which is kind of amazing. We see so much that's coming to the truth, where lies and subversion, is all coming to the surface now. It cannot, it's not being able to be hidden, from us. We're realizing that we can start seeing it, and this is where it's getting very, very interesting. So much is about ready to turn on this planet in so many ways, and we're at this precipice with our technology. And I've been working, in these consortiums, talking to people, and we're realizing that we're so close to launching into this whole different aspect of technology that is going to move so quickly because of where it's coming from. And we're already doing fourth dimensional programming, and in so many different ways. And now that the technology that's becoming so intelligent and in alignment, to be green, to leave a toxic footprint, is all about ready to leap forward on this planet. And it's getting really exciting, especially to even be a part of it, to know that that I can contribute a piece of that puzzle, because of my intention, my purpose here on the planet. So I'm excited, to be watching this unveil.
Speaking of symbols, what do you think is Fatima's third secret? Because I've been hearing a lot of people talk about this lately, and it's something I never really thought about until recently. What do you think it is?
Actually, that's nothing that I can really, talk about at this point in time. I would have to go a little bit deeper, to want to actually have a discussion, based on something that I would want to. I'm one of those people that will see signs that are coming and work just to show the dots that we're stepping into a profound shift. And I'm usually not one of the type of people that will put absolute specifics on what is about to happen. So I've kind of learned to do that, for many benefits, just so, when we're looking at it from above, but without, giving so many specifics about it, so I know the interpretations of of what those secrets are to be, there there's been different interpretations, around the world of what we feel that they are, so again, if you ask me that question, it would just be an interpretation at this point in time. But if you want to give me about a week to focus on that, we can bring this up at another day and actually start talking about that. Yeah, I'm being very evasive right now.
I don't blame when it comes to biblical prophecy. I don't blame you at all.
When we understand, the prophecies, one of the things that, one of the biblical prophecies, where we have to understand the wording, and how many times it's been rewritten, then the numbers
translated and rewritten,
exactly.
and yeah.
But one of the things that that hasn't changed too much is the numerology behind it. And when we start looking at the numbers, not the words and the meanings that English has given to that term, after it's been translated over and over and over again, this is something. The only true Rosetta Stone is the numerology, is the numbers. And once we have that true code, then we'll be able to see it in a totally different aspect. And it'll reveal itself based on the numbers throughout the through the universal measurements. throughout history. This is something, and that's something that has been really focused on in our current consciousness, is understanding the Fibonacci, understanding, this pattern, this intelligence, on such the grand design, and this is where it's getting real exciting, especially if your brain starts to wire to see it.
Right.
Because I remember I had a keen mathematical ability when I was young, and something happened when I was 14 where I got thrown out. And all of a sudden, it was about 14 or 15. I was going to go into the Air Force. I was going to fly fighter jets, because I knew I could. And but then all of a sudden, like, something happened to my brain, and all of a sudden it just got dumped for some reason, and I couldn't see the math the same way.
Huh.
So yeah, this was something that I had to look at and kind of wonder. And I see my daughter going through that same thing where she's trying to understand the numbers, and she goes through these cycles where all of a sudden she gets it and then it's gone. And so whatever's happening within our brains is very interesting, and we're still working to figure it out.
Numbers in me numbers I see everywhere, and I have I don't know, a gift of I can look at it, 5 or 6 numbers and say one, or I can bring it down to its how numerology works. You add the numbers together until you have a single digit. I can look at a long string of numbers and just boom, there it is. I've taken it down to its core number so easily. But I've been doing this for numbers, and I have been going round and round since the late 80s, where when 22 and 99 started bugging me. I was stalked. And they still are very prominent numbers in my life. I mean, everywhere I go, there they are. But one that I seeing things with a different perspective when looking at just about anything, even the prophecy. I so many people take it for the literal translation. And the metaphor is so much more important that's contained within it than the literal translation. And then when you take the numerology and throw that on top of it and get the vibration of that through, I guess the core vibration is math. It is the number. And tie that into the metaphor, I've been able to reap so much more out of some of these prophecies, and that or things that people say, that are modern day prophets, so to say, how they have visions and see things, disasters coming, and for instance, we had last year. Somebody told the East Coast to look out because there was a big wave on its way there that they had a vision of the whole East Coast being swamped by a mile-high wave. And I immediately, as soon as I heard that, I saw something different. I saw a wave of consciousness that was getting ready to just come onto the eastern shore and start swamping the whole United States with a different type of a wave. Yeah. So
exactly. Yeah, I completely understand. That's we had the similar events that were happening here on the West, where people were prophesizing this giant wave, during these times that was going to hit the West Coast, and a lot of people literally taking those words literal, like you mentioned, and moving.
Right.
In fear, saying I have to get away from the West Coast. And I just kept checking in. I said, no, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be right in walking distance from the water. And when the time is right, is to be at the shore, when this wave comes. And when you mentioned that wave of consciousness, when that wave that will arrive in the West and go to the East, and that was the one that we were focused on. So when we start to seeing this evidence, of these waves, these energies, and especially if they come from the sun, or they come from undetermined energy forces outside of our planet that permeate the magnetosphere and hit the planet, hit us. This becomes very interesting and we feel it, and we can also measure it with our scientific instruments, and that's what's getting real exciting.
Yeah.
Is that when we have the tangible, we can actually see it.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of what you're saying is the same thing with me, where it was everybody was just saying how Japan's gonna sink, and I don't think 1 week goes by without somebody on some radio show saying that Japan's gonna sink.
Yeah.
But I keep checking in and keep getting the same. With me, it's very gut thing, and I get the warm feeling. This is where I'm supposed to be. This is where I'm supposed to be, because I know the feeling when it says, like, get the hell out. I've been in situations where, back in New York, where I would be in a bar and I would get this feeling like, get out, and then something crazy happens there. So,
yes.
So I'm sensitive enough where I know, like, if I'm in danger, I know to get out.
Yes, no, that's those people were correct, or are correct, but then that information isn't pure, where they don't have the perfect. Japan is sinking into the ocean after the earthquake, if I recall. It actually did. It dropped several inches. So when we understand those level of effects, maybe is when someone has a vision of it sinking, or that the way or the literal sense of it could be misperceived, just like the waves that we were just talking about.
Yeah. So how are we doing? Are we at the top of the hour there, Tom?
Oh, we got a few more minutes, about 5 more minutes.
Well, let's take this 5 minutes so John can tell us where he's going to be at, where people can find. You have a lot of products on your website, with your website.
Oh, yes. Well, yeah, we've been really excited lately. We've been, we haven't been talking too much about the global mission, because we've been working really deep with some beautiful humanitarian projects. And I think I did mention, our conversation with South Africa on the last radio show, where we're actually been asked to present our technologies to Nelson Mandela and the government of South Africa. And we were connected with one of the South African elders, and to do this. And so we're very honored that they've received the information about our technology, and they really feel strongly that they want to support it and bring it forth on a humanitarian and on a global paradigm shift in regard to help life on this planet. So when we're working patiently but on a high conscious level, if once I get the permission to talk in depth, it's absolutely fascinating what's going on. If you want proof of that higher consciousness that's happening in many implementations, in many mechanisms, in many corporations, it is happening on the planet as we speak. And that's one of the things where people struggle in that energy and say, well, corporations are evil, but we also have to remember that corporations are people in the structure. And there are people who say, what to do in these corporations. Now, if they go through a shift in consciousness, what happens in that corporate structure? So this is the unfolding. This is what we're going to actually start to see. And some of those corporations will be brought to light. They will be exposed for what they are. And in that time is the awakening that will happen with all the other corporations that have been working in the lower controlling mechanisms. That will be a wake-up call for them to clean up their act.
Right.
And this is, we're witnessing this as we speak, and this is happening. But there's also ones in place that are unsatisfied with the self. They've gone through the materialistic, the massive financial gains, and they're empty in their physical beings and in their hearts. All of a sudden, they're getting activated, and they're about ready to step up to bridge the gaps in this conscious humanitarian shift. And this is what we're all going to get to witness. And some of us are going to be stepping back going, did you ever believe that you'd live to see this? So yeah, I say yes. Let's let it reveal before us.
I'm ready. Well, it's happening. It is happening.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of yesterday. I've had the movie Drive for, I don't know, my friend Rohini gave it to me like I think a year and a half or something. I've had it sitting here for the longest time. And I've watched it, and my wife, she's not really interested in any of these things, and all of a sudden she was like, "Oh, have you ever heard of the movie Drive?" And I said, "Are you kidding me? I've had it there on the shelf for over a year." And so she finally sat down with me yesterday and started watching it.
Really? Awesome.
Yeah, because a friend of hers had posted it on Facebook. And I said, "Oh, now your friend posted it. Now it's okay to watch."
Right.
The husband talks about
that's
it.
Great.
Well, the prophet's never welcome in his hometown, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What'll be great is one day we'll actually be able to talk about the LifeStream technology on the radio. We never seem to actually get able to talk about it. We always get it, captured.
Well, we have a second hour.
Oh, we do.
Yeah. We'll get into it. We'll tell you what. We'll definitely talk about it in the second segment here.
All right, sounds great.
Okay.
Well, maybe you shouldn't be so widely knowledgeable, and then this way we can't ask you about everything, and you know a little bit about everything.
No, I don't mind at all. I use that jokingly at the same time, but it's always exciting. We get captured, and to work to connect the dots with the listeners, because there's so many people out there wondering what's going on. How come I feel this way? And then when we do our research, from a tangible aspect and just start to connect those dots, we know how many people that could help.
Right.
And all of a sudden they have clear vision. They can see. It's exciting.
Nice. We'll definitely talk about that in the second hour. So anyways, we're going to wrap up here. I want to thank everybody for listening. www.zeropointresearch.com is John's website. I urge you to go over there and take a look at what he's got there. He's got some amazing technology, and he's got a lot of resources there where you can check out how this stuff works. And I know there's some stuff on YouTube also about it. So some exciting stuff, and tune into the second hour and you can hear some more about it. www.thehundredthmonkeyradio.com. We love you guys, and we will see you in the second hour. Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance.
Before I say my quote, I just want to say thank you very much for those of you who are members. And if you're not a member yet, today's might be a perfect opportunity to join us and check out the second hour content that we have. 2 years, over 131 shows. So make sure you check us out and help support us. We really appreciate it. So as my quote says, the love you deny is the pain you carry. John, you got any quotes there you'd like saying?
Just no matter where you go, there you are.
There we go.
Who was it? Al Green? No.
Well, Buckaroo Banzai said it the best.
There you go.
No, I was thinking of the song from the 1930s.
Okay.
Who live for
Anyway.
peace and not violence.
All right. We'll see you in a
to be the
second hour.
change we wish to see in the world. Freedom's calling, I feel the fire that's deep inside us. Everybody wants change, but tell me who will guide us to the leaders that pass away. Put up your lighters. It's a beautiful struggle, but it cannot divide us. We're the ones that we've always been waiting for. See yourself in the mirror and open up the door. Walk through it and feel the love throughout your pores. Be the light, life's purpose is to feel joy. Metaphysical, lyrical, standing up for truth. The only one to make change is walking in your shoes. Be the example, don't complain about the news. Making music and serving the world with the loo. Now you can be the same, or you can be the change. Find strength from inside, break through the chains. No one to blame, nothing to prove. You create your reality, it's up to you. Be the change
that you wanna see in the world, like Gandhi live for peace.
Aspire to peace.
Someone who fights for the beliefs, like Martin Luther King.
Aspire to peace.
That love,
that light,
like Christ,
live life
for the moment in need.
And if you believe
in Jehovah,
Allah,
flooded with war. History's littered with body scar, trying to settle the score to maintain an archaic platform of power and greed. People fight for land out of survival and need. So I'm killing my television and I'm planting a seed to fill my head with knowledge that I'm seeing recede. Due to the media propaganda, killing my creed. Know what don't kill me make me stronger, feeling straight when I bleed. Fighting for interest and forwards attached to feet. They try to sell you anything in this world, nothing for free. Land, air, fire, and water, they keep up in the ante while the anti-proletariat told the powers to be. But we keep fighting, surviving and thriving, recycling and rhyming. We constantly inclining, we see through the lying and prying. They tactically keep trying to keep you from asking the why.
Be the change that you wanna see in the world, like Gandhi live for peace.
Aspire to be
Someone who fights for the beliefs, like Martin Luther King.
Aspire to be
that love,
that light,
like Christ,
this light.
for the moment in need.
And if you believe
In Jehovah,
Allah,
Buddha,
Krishna,
it's love to me.
We find solutions, different possibilities, creating organizations like Aspire to Be, inspiring young minds to see, building life skills, nurturing creativity, fulfilling the youth's basic needs, listening actively, teaching the tools to succeed, positive role models, we plant the seed, the roots drink the water which feed the trees, someone help me, giving back is my responsibility.
Be the change that you wanna see in the world, like Gandhi live for peace.
aspire to be
Someone who fights for the beliefs, like Martin